Tuesday, what's up Wednesday, how's it going Thursday, from Friday and Saturday and Sunday, it's a weekend update.
I'm Treasa, and this is the weekend update with Walking Produce. And I'm actually all by myself today as we try something a little bit differently. I feel like I say that every single week, but it's true. This whole experience of doing a podcast has just been a bunch of trial and error type of situations. So we're constantly changing it up and seeing what works. So the finale is going to be no different. We are going to do 4 episodes to close out the show, the podcast, the whole group for now at least. And it's going to consist of each one of us Monday through Thursday coming on and doing our own episode where we just kind of talk out what it's been like to be a part of Walking Produce, what we've learned, how we've grown, if we faced any challenges, and overall what the experience has been holding each other and ourselves accountable over this past 6 months. With that being said, let's get into it. I'm Treasa, like I said, and I really want to talk about and focus on what it's been like for me. I feel like my experience has been slightly different because I actually had a personal connection to every single member of Walking Produce. I don't know if that was a benefit or not, but I don't really think that's too important in today's episode. I feel like today it should be more about really what was I going through over the past 6 months and how I think I can move forward and grow from the experience. I feel like I must admit it has not been very frequent that we've been posting. Frequent is the word. It hasn't been very consistent the way we've been posting on Walking Produce. We got halfway through posting really consistently on Sundays, and then over the past few weeks we've just really made a mess of it, specifically me, and have been posting further and further into the week. So it's become a Sunday-ish posting, and there's definitely been weeks when we've missed it. I think meeting deadlines is definitely something that's on my list of things that I personally need to improve on, especially to become successful on future endeavors. But there's a lot that goes into it, and I think a lot that I need to improve to make that possible. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Like, what are those elements I need to improve so that I can succeed in the future? As far as recording individually, I think this is going to be really nice because I really wanted everyone to have a moment to be able to express their personal journey without interruption. And I personally am interested to hear from everyone and, find out what they feel like their creative journey has been like, because I feel like sometimes when we're really absorbed in our own feelings and struggles and triumphs, we become blind to the path that the people closest to us are on and their experience may have been. So that being said, over the past 6 months, it's been a roller coaster for me as I've tried my best to juggle the version of me that I try to present to the world and the internal battle I try to conceal through endless self-growth and personal obsession. I have stood in front of you attempting to be open, but hiding behind the fact that every time I close the door and I am alone with myself, I'm full of judgment and even hate, whether it's for myself or the people closest to me or even strangers. I've plagued myself with the insincerity of silent judgment, and I've told myself it's okay because I'm so hard on myself that it's okay to be hard on others because I'm 10 times harder on myself. I have always tried to make my severity okay through that type of excuse, I guess. It's not an excuse, but that's what I've told myself. I've told myself it's okay that I'm so affected by the actions of others because I'm broken, I'm healing, I'm trying. But in reality, I must take responsibility and I must learn to do better. So today I want to talk about a few things specifically, those being focus, workflow, honesty, and ego. And let's start at the beginning, as all of these concepts correlate in some way, but I feel like focus is the easiest one to just jump into because it has to do with getting things done. And, I already talked about the fact that I struggle to meet deadline. Getting things done has been an endless battle for me. I would say even before walking, obviously, because that's why we created walking. We created walking because I know myself, and I know that when I feel responsible for something and accountable for it, I'm more likely to actually get that thing done. I know that when I'm in a group project or a group setting, I don't let people down. But when it comes to myself, I'm constantly letting myself down. So I figured that if I created a group where people know what I'm responsible for, and I'm trying to, I'm also a very competitive person. So I figured if I'm trying to like meet goals and deadlines within the group, then it's going to push me. It's going to drive me. I'm going to be really honest. We'll get back to the idea of being focused. But early on in Walking Produce, that's all Walking Produce was about. It was about what's your goal this week and how are you going to meet that goal? And it was supposed to be about us reaching out via our own little tiny social media community and just pushing each other, telling each other how we were able to meet our goal this week or how we weren't able to, and what we're going to do to fix that. Early on, it was so exciting and it was so positive. I feel like now that I'm actually having to talk about the experience, I'm being faced with the fact that we really lost sight of that. Over the last few months, we definitely haven't been talking about our goals and checking in with each other. I feel like halfway through, we had to really start pushing to create more podcasts because we only had so many backlog. It kind of became so overwhelmingly about the podcast, almost to the point where there was no other goal except for getting the podcast out on time. And as people in the group lost sight of their goals, they also lost sight of whole group mentality. They lost purpose in posting on the group because they were just thinking, well, I don't want to post on social media. I don't like social media and whatnot. And that wasn't really the point of the group. We were never trying to get followers. We were never trying to be out there in that way. It was more about sharing our journey with each other. And that definitely got lost along the way. In the future, especially because I was a sort of leader within this group, I think it's really important to have that mission and constantly look back at it and remind yourself. And when you start to see failings within the group or a struggle within the group, bring everyone back to the purpose of the group. Because at some point in Walking Produce, we did kind of have a group huddle and we did talk about where is walking going and how are we going to adjust to make sure that it still fits into our lives? How can we reformat and whatnot? And now that I'm sitting here and I'm talking about it, I feel like this whole thing that I'm thinking about, like the fact that we kind of lost track of our goals, wasn't even something that was mentioned, or if it was mentioned, it was very much passed over. If we would have had a strong mission statement to go back to, we did somewhat actually. But the fact that we didn't use that as something to look back on and use as the guiding force of what the group was about, it caused us to lose track of what we were doing. And so the group became almost pointless. Like I said, it became all about the podcast. And then when we couldn't agree on what the podcast was supposed to be about, it became confusing and almost unnecessary because everyone's minds were in different places. Like I said, we didn't know what the group was about anymore. So how were we supposed to know what the podcast was supposed to be about? Not that I regret doing the podcast or I don't like we ended up coming out with. I definitely think looking back, if we would have had more focus and clearer leadership, and I'm willing to take the blame and responsibility on this, I think we would have been able to go a lot farther and it wouldn't have interfered with our other goals as much, because if we would have kept on track, continued to make those goals, it would have been propelling us forward and the focus would have remained on the goals and not on Walking Produce itself, which I feel like it became a drain because it became about Walking Produce and it took away from what we were actually supposed to be doing, our goals in our actual life. At least for me, there might be some other people in the group that this has actually been the most successful past 6 months for them. Honestly, if the group made one or two of us just propel our careers forward, I am so happy about that and it was worth it. I think the group was worth it anyways. We've all grown, but I am interested to hear everyone else's journey from their own mouths. I don't want to assume based on what I know about their achievements over the past 6 months. I just realized my computer's not plugged in, and I will be very sad if it dies midway through. So I'm just taking a moment. Sorry, this is probably loud. Alrighty, we are plugged in. Anyways, I am excited to hear. But anyways, more specifically about me, I feel like I've been one of the people that had the biggest struggle with this. I came in with a very strong goal and mission. It was different than some of the other people in the group because it wasn't an exact goal. It wasn't, I want to write a book, or I want to make an album, or I want to make a movie. It was that I wanted to say no to other people, focus on myself, and really propel my personal career forward and just figure out who the heck I was and what I wanted to do, because I feel like creatively, my mind is all over the place. Ideas are never an issue. I'll just be having a random conversation and something will just come to mind and I'll throw myself into it. So it's never about the creativity or the idea or the specific industry. It's figuring out what I want to do and what I want to put my time in and staying focused, because like I said, ideas are dime and dozen. But I feel like if I just keep creating all these ideas when I'm have pre-existing ideas that are in the works, I'm basically just slapping my own ideas in the face. And I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be slapping my ideas or myself in the face. That was my original goal, but what I realized is I don't need to not say no to everybody else, because I can do that. Not that I can do that. I feel like I can't do that. But I am my own sabotager. It isn't that people are asking me to join their movie, help them write a script, make them costumes, or manage their career. No one is asking me outright to do these things, at least not in the past 6 months. So saying no was not the issue. And maybe that was because I went into the year telling most people that do creative things, this is my year of no, I'm focusing on me. So people didn't bring forward ideas like that. But I am my own sabotager because I put myself in this situation. I brought forward those ideas to other people. Again, I never had to say no to anything, but I need to learn to say no to myself. I need to shut down those ideas before they come something, because if you bring to someone a great idea that you're willing to go 50% with them, like you're willing to give them the credit, but you're willing to help them along, why would they say no? But that's not what this year was about. This year was about finding myself and finding how I can stand on my own 2 feet and do my own things. And yet somehow I ended up working on everybody else's projects or finding ways to give other people opportunities, find other people opportunities. If someone mentioned that they had a project, I was able to find someone that could help them with that project. And then I made it my responsibility to be the go-between, when really I should just exchange the information. And if the thing doesn't work out, that's not on me. That's not my problem. I connected people. I don't need to be the one that's giving 50% on every single project that comes to my brain. I can tell someone, oh, this is an interesting idea. They want to use it, go for it. But I can't be personally taking responsibility for so many things, because it just, like I said, it's basically slapping myself in the face because I can't handle all of it. It's just taking on too much at once is one of my biggest struggles, and I feel like it's a form of procrastination because I feel like I'm afraid to just stand on my own, and I feel so afraid of actual failure that I'm willing to stand behind someone, direct them or help them or do whatever they need to make something work, but I'm terrified of just having to do it on my own. And on top of taking on so much work, I found myself continuing that terrible habit of making myself available, agreeing to make simple ideas more complex, and even agreeing to travel in the excitement of the moment, when that was a huge part of the year of no, and therefore against what's best for me. All these new projects were amazing opportunities for me to learn and grow, but they were also and more importantly, ways for me to become distracted and unfocused on the original goal that I set for myself. Like I said, even as I sit here after dropping the ball on this podcast, giving up on deadlines, and finding a way to close this chapter with a halfway decent bow, I am drained, running in circles, postponing other projects' deadlines, and squeezing in new collaborations, and making myself the go-between. Like I said, that go-between, creating opportunities for others. Stretched thin yet again, this is the cycle that I find myself in. As I'm endlessly overloaded, it's endless overload that is going to be the death of any talent or opportunity I may have, and therefore it must end. To be more specific, I am an endless procrastinator. And sure, there is insecurities and deep-seated pain and even fatigue from a career that pays my bills. But those are just excuses, and at the end of the day, I feel like I need to get real and honest and admit that digging into what has made me the person that I am today has helped me grow, but it has also become a clutch. It has become an excuse and a reason to procrastinate further, and the reason to explain away my dishonesty. And until I let go of the energy I have been putting into this obsession with not just bettering myself, but researching why I'm the way I am. Why do I do this and that and blah, 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 blah. I will have to become the type of person that just gets things done. Because let's get real, there's plenty of time in the day for whatever we want to do, but it's the decisions we make and the time we waste that determine whether or not you have that time. At the end of 6 months, I finally started to get real with myself. I stopped complaining about how others may be letting me down and started to have tough conversations about how things aren't working and why. I stopped wishing I had more money and created a strict budget and action plan on how I could make more. And I started saying no to myself because let's be real, no idea is a good idea when it is going to distract you from what you're already trying to accomplish. As far as workflow goes, I'm still working it out, but I'm actively trying my best to tackle the most important things first. In work, when I'm at work and on layovers, as I'm a flight attendant and I spend most of my time away from home, it's important to me that I actually have time at home to relax and recuperate. So if I actually get my work done when I'm not at home, it gives me that freedom. I can do anything and not feel bad. This is important to me because when I'm at home, I actually need time to relax and recuperate. I need to be able to do nothing and not feel bad. I've been trying to prioritize eating right, reading more, and practicing gratefulness, and most importantly, taking the time I need to be alone with myself. I feel like whenever I actually do these things, I'm such a happier, more productive person. The problem is being consistent. I seem to be able to do this for a few months at a time, and then life just catches up with me. I start to feel overwhelmed and I just fall out of these healthy habits. So staying consistent and reminding myself what's a priority is going to be key in the future. If I'm being honest, honesty is probably my biggest downfall, as I never or rarely stand up for myself. I never express my personal views or feelings when I feel like someone has upset me. I even refuse to call people out when they weren't pulling their weight or they let me down. Even if someone truly hurt my feelings, I just bury it because I'm afraid of the conflict and what expressing myself may cause. But more than that, I have found myself overwhelmed and pulling so much weight on so many projects because I'm afraid to say something. And it's hard to make ends meet, and all of the pressure of feeling like I'm failing, not being able to make ends meet, trying to balance so many things at once, and hiding all my true feelings creates this overwhelming feeling of depression and exhaustion. What happens from that is going to be me not able to meet future deadlines, and I may act in a way that is not me or I do not like. I may snap more often or be rude to someone when that isn't who I really am. obviously, I'm someone who's terrified of ever making someone feel bad, try to avoid conflict, like I said. But then when I get pushed to this limit, all of a sudden I'm snapping at people left and right. And eventually I just give up. I'll stop being involved or even helpful. I'll miss deadlines, like I said. And I end up feeling the complete burden of this. I end up feeling like it's all my fault, when in reality, if it was a group project or their project even, how is that my fault? I need to start being honest with myself and other people as well. Sometimes you just need to say something, and if you're not willing to say something, then maybe you shouldn't be working with them. I feel like this exact thing happened during a project in the beginning of our quest for accountability, and even in the middle. And again, it's happening right now. It's an endless cycle of me becoming overwhelmed and not able to meet the deadlines I need to, but also a huge part of that is this dishonesty. I need to force myself to stop both of those behaviors because it's very crippling, adds to the exhaustion and the depression. And the only way I feel like I'm ever going to be able to drastically change this is actually changing my behavior. And as hard as I try to be genuine and honest and positive, I feel like the reason that I am not is because I am in a battle with my ego, which is very hard for me to admit because I feel like until recently, I would always excuse away the idea of having a big ego because I felt like it was impossible. How could someone have a big ego if they're shy, if they're afraid to be themselves, if they're humble, if they're constantly insecure and afraid of what other people think? And so I just always excused away the idea of an ego. I know I said I would stop obsessing over what makes me me and personal development and all of those things, but I feel like this is my last opportunity to really dig deep because this is something like I said, I really have ignored over the years, and I feel like has impacted not only the last 6 months, but just who I am in general. Until I get real, I'm going to remain on the verge of depression and endless stress. But since I feel like I don't know that much about it and I really want to learn more about it, I'm actually going to pull up a couple articles on the internet right now with you and just talk about it, what we find. Okay, so I pulled up the first article, and it's on one of my favorite platforms, Medium. It's by Jamal Mason. Thanks, Jamal. And it says, why destroying your ego leads to success and happiness and how to do it. This might have all the information we need right in it, so let's check it out. It says some definite signs that imply that you are letting your ego run your life. You feel better about yourself while talking about other people's flaws. Honestly, I'm pretty hard on people, so this could be true. You can't back down from arguments until you've won. Wow, that's really, really true and horrible to admit. You compare yourself to others you feel are better than you or worse than you. Yeah, that's probably true. You feel jealous when other people are doing better than you. I don't know if this is true. Okay, continue. You talk about yourself for 10 minutes before asking about another person. I don't know if this is true. I feel like it depends who I'm talking to. It definitely could be true at some points. Let me know if you think this is true if you've listened to the podcast. You'd rather look good to everyone else than actually do your best or even lie to make yourself look good. No, because I definitely wouldn't fail just to look good for everybody else. I need to do my best for myself. You set impossible goals, then beat yourself up when you don't achieve them. You always need a bigger house or a bigger car. I feel like this is super true for me because growing up, it was always about, I can't wait till I get to the next accomplishment, the next thing. And then now that I'm an adult and, I have a great job, I've gone through all the schooling I could possibly think to do. It's all about, okay, now what's next? And the next goals are so big and so unaccomplishable. They're not, but they feel that way in this moment, and I'm constantly beating myself up over it. I mean, if you listen to any 5 seconds of the podcast, I feel like you would agree on this. You blame others when things don't go your way. I feel like I'm always willing to take the blame, but I think probably deep down I do maybe resent others if they didn't pull their weight in the way that I wish they would, or something like that. You don't congratulate yourself on trying your best if in the end you lost. I feel like I do congratulate myself, but it takes a while before I do it. Okay, so now we definitely found that, I have an ego, which I was already admitting, but, we reaffirm the fact that I have problems with my ego. So let's get into why we need to reduce the ego and how it's going to affect our success and happiness. And I just want to add in real quick, I am so hungry. Like my stomach is about to get loud and I might need to pause recording this podcast, and I hope that doesn't happen. Anyways, let's continue because I really want to nail this thing out. A few reasons why the ego reduces chances of success and happiness. It reduces your success by constantly comparing yourself to others. It reduces your self-esteem by constantly comparing yourself to others, which I feel like is a huge problem for me. Definitely. As much as I try not to admit this is true, it is so true. I'm so hard on myself and I'm constantly thinking like I'm the biggest loser in the room, and that is a negative mindset to be in. Caring too much what others think or having a fear of being labeled a certain image can have effects on the amount of action you take. And again, this is so true of me. I'm constantly afraid to speak up or, make myself known because I'm afraid of, being labeled or seen in a way that isn't perfect. And, that's definitely holds you back because no one knows who you are if you're afraid to speak up all of the time. You lack people skills. In this world, it's more about who you know than what you know. People with big egos usually have a few friends that are true loyal friends. Most people with big egos will only hang around people of equal status, if not higher, to maintain an image. I don't think this is completely true. Well, I feel like I hang out with all types of people. A person who is the complete opposite and hangs around all groups of people doesn't fear rejection and congratulates others' lives and abundant life as more people can return benefits to back them. I feel like on that one, I definitely hang around with all types of people. I do still feel like I fear rejection. The ego will overall take you through an unnecessary emotional roller coaster. Nothing is ever enough. You can get the house you've always wanted and then complain it's not big enough 10 years later. I could definitely see this true. I mean, I am really grateful for every milestone I've ever hit, but at the same time, I'm not able to be happy in my current moment. So how can we fix this? If you look at this article, by the way, I'm literally just reading, they highlighted parts of it, and I'm only reading the majority of what is highlighted. So there's so much more to this article that you could actually check out. You will chase goals that you love because they provide you with permanent fun, happiness, and confidence. And this is what I need to figure out, what I love, and not be afraid to admit that's what I enjoy doing, and that's what brings me happiness. People will see this and reflect the same, and better connections will be built. Okay, so find fun. That's number one. Can you physically feel, see, hear, or touch, or taste? What? Reading just highlighted bits is not working. Are there any situations that prove that I am the opposite? Okay, so it's saying another way that you can work on, just feeding your ego is just how I was able to find reasons or ways that I do kind of exhibit examples of having an ego. It wants you to actually force yourself to look at examples of how you don't have an ego, which I also kind of did, but really focus on that to kind of break the idea that you have an ego and break those bad habits by focusing on the ways that you've behaved in the right way, which is a really good idea. This is interesting. It says, nobody is afraid to die. People are afraid of the story of death. People are afraid that they never got to reach their goals before they died or see their children get married, etc. That's what they're afraid of, not death. I don't know, because I am like actually afraid of the pain of death, just like I'm afraid of the pain of childbirth. So I don't think that's 100% true. Once you kill this ego, you'll be living off of intuition, or in other words, living from your heart. Yeah, I feel like a huge thing for me that I really need to like be able to figure out how to do is like how to be the same person the majority of the time. I know like sometimes when you're at work and stuff, you kind of have to put on some sort of a face to be in the service industry, so that there's that. But I should be able to be the same type of person around the majority of the people that I care about in my life and not have to hold back. I shouldn't be afraid of dancing or singing in front of certain people, and just that's kind of, I want to be the person that I am with the people that I'm able to be the most free with, which would be me kind of like living from my heart with everybody that I spend time with, because that would make me a much freer person and someone who's a lot less insecure. You will begin to connect to your higher self once you destroy this ego and manifest much quicker the blessings as you connect better with your own source. So that's a little manifestation thing that they added in at the end, which I like and I definitely agree with. So I feel like that may be something, that may have been holding me back as far as manifestation goes. Actually, I have a big fat ego. And it causes me to be extremely insecure. And that insecurity causes me to be, terrified of failing. And therefore, I am very unfocused. And I take on way too much work in order to make excuses for why I'm unfocused, and just pretty much deny myself the chance of ever completing anything and seeing something all the way through the end, which has really been hurting me. That is my thoughts on what I've been going through over the past 6 months. I'm very, very, very thankful for what I've learned being a part of Walking Produce. I know maybe this episode was a little bit of a downer. It was definitely a lot about, what I've been going through, which has been not the best. But I really do want to take a moment to say I am so thankful for this group, for what we accomplished. I'm so glad I got the opportunity to be a part of a podcast and learn all of the ins and out of that process. And I'm so grateful that the opportunities that did come about through Walking Produce, as far as making a couple music videos with Tiirous and the different projects that I started with Mora, even having Joe's input on how I could do better. It was an overall great experience, and I'm really glad that I did it. And I think if I didn't have this experience, I wouldn't have grown to the point where I am today, where I'm actually trying to actively do better and make these changes in how I am behaving. And I know I just briefly covered what I am doing to change, but I assure you it is actual actions that are being made to try to help myself get past all these huge insecurities and all of this dishonesty. I've had really, really hard conversations, and I've had to tell people that I care about that certain things are not working for me, and I've not been honest about it. And I've had to say no to things. I've had to tell people that I know I said yes, but in reality I can't do it. I've had to push back big deadlines that I was really excited about. And I've had to narrow my focus and really put what's forefront first and foremost and cut out all the bullshit. And I'm actively trying to do that and determined to make the next 6 months about me. I'm sorry if that sounds selfish, but I need to really give myself a chance to be successful. I'm so glad we did Walking Produce, because I only made it halfway through the year before I realized, I wasn't on track at all. And I still have 6 months to kill this year, and I plan on doing it. So thank you so much if you actually gave this podcast episode a listen, if you have listened to us in the past. I honestly don't know because of where we post our podcast. I really don't know how many people listen to these podcasts, if anyone actually listens to these podcasts, or if anybody cares about them. As we come to a close and we, tie up walking produce and hang it up on the shelf for a while, if you could just leave a little comment or like on this video or recording, depends where you're listening to it, just let me know that you actually listened or have listened in the past. I mean, if you're this far in the video, unless you just skip to the end, most likely you'll listen to this one. But either way, if you have listened to any of our podcasts, I would love to know. Thank you so much again, and thank you for joining on this journey. You wouldn't hear this unless you were listening, but even if you haven't listened to all of our podcasts, just following us on our Instagram journey, just giving this one a listen is so appreciated. Honestly, it's been a journey and I've learned a lot, and I'm really excited about what's to come next. So thank you again. Oh, before I forget, really quickly, check back next weekend because Iris is going to be on and he is going to be giving his whole story. I know I said that in the beginning, but I just want to reaffirm Tyrus is next. He's Tuesday, and I'm very excited to hear what he has thought about the last 6 months. Bye, guys.
Friday and Saturday and Sunday. It's a weekend.